Have you ever seen something that is equally adorable and repulsive? Perhaps your mother. That's just a joke. We like to poke fun here at the CCP. But let's get down to brass tacks. The guest we have on tonight has carved out a style that is instantly recognizable. A true creative pioneer, existing in his own rubbery reality. Christopher Rutledge's animations are both short and hypnotic. He's what some might call the world's most enthusiastic evangelist for Houdini, a physics sim software typically used in the industry for explosions. But rather than explosions, Chris saw a jiggling opportunity. When he's not creating soft-bodied universes, he's co-running Grin Machine, a production studio created by himself, Cole Cush, and Dan Streit. Together, they've created visuals for TV, advertisement, and music videos for artists such as Brockhampton, Lil Yachty, Lil Nas X, and Dominic Fike, bringing that unpredictable, elastic energy into the music world. He's also quietly become the internet's happy CG teacher, teaching others how to use 3D software and how to 3D animate, in addition to creating his own films that have been featured in Sundance, the Ottawa Animation Festival, and Pictoplasma. So it's an honor to have him on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, we here at Knopes Productions present to you Carlos's Curiosity Program. Ladies and gentlemen, calling in all the way from, not across the pond, calling all the way in from the Americas, the one and only Christopher Rutledge. Can we get a round of applause from the room? Yeah, let's go.
Thank you guys.
Beautiful. Get him in
Thank you
here.
guys so much.
Oh, perfect. Dude, good morning. Thank you for hopping on a call, dude.
Dude, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Dude, I'm honored to have you. I'm surprised you said yes. Dude, also, this isn't a podcast. This is a interview talk show. This is a very serious...
I'm sorry.
This is a very serious thing we have going on here. So, again, really do appreciate it.
Right.
I was like, there's no way he's going to say yes. But you did. I was like, oh my God,
Really?
we got
Why?
him. I don't know. I feel like you're a busy guy. You actually have like big things to work on. And I was like, there's no way. This guy is just going to be like, look at these chumps.
Dude, nah. I feel like I don't know, the shit that you guys are doing and the stuff that I'm seeing, just like, I don't know, like I mean, I definitely want to talk about, I don't know what you have on the agenda, but I'm very like interested in this kind of sort of like I mean, I wrote that Substack article where we're talking about kind of like aesthetics and this kind of interesting sort of like, primarily Discord based sort of like
community
art scene,
for sure,
community thing. And it's like, this is where I feel like the most interesting stuff is happening. Like, this is definitely like where I'm getting like, I don't know, really psyched and inspired by like, what people are doing. And
yeah,
stuff.
I think you're on the, like, that's a really good point. Is it really is just like this subculture. I mean, I don't want to really call it like a subculture in a way, but it is like this like concentration of a bunch of the digital artists that we respect and we're like fond of, all like coming together in some sense and I don't know, being supportive.
Totally.
Yeah.
What really like mystifies me though is like I don't kind of understand like where everyone came from, like how this sort of scene coalesced, and like like the sort of sources of inspiration. Like I obviously pointed to like Jack's stuff as like a big inspiration for a lot of people, and I know you guys talk with Seizure Warning a bit about sort of like other people like claiming to be kind of like ripping off different sort of styles or whatever. Mm-hmm. But really I feel like a lot of people are sort of like evolving and mutating like inspiration that they're finding from other people. And that's really sick and really exciting. And like, the way that it should be. And I feel like, Jack and other people who are like sort of closer to the origin point, if not the origin point. Like, it's unclear to me, like, if they are exactly where it started, or like where Jack's inspiration comes from or whatever. Obviously, like, you know, there's a lot of overlap with like all kinds of like
culture and aesthetics,
different sorts of media and video games and like skate culture and like all that sort of stuff. And you know, I don't know. I think that stuff is really exciting. And I want to get to the bottom of this.
Dude,
on
this is something
on this show.
We got to solve this. All right, that's what we're here to like, get into the nitty gritty and kind of put our magnifying glasses to our eyes. But yeah, no, the scene is definitely really interesting and continues to grow. And I feel like a lot of these people, here's how I'd say it. I feel like a lot of these people are the ones who are kind of pushing the culture forward in a lot of ways. And they're also like not but underrepresented. So I felt like interviewing some of these people who are like in the scene would, one, just be fun, and two, I don't know, I find it interesting. It's like a scene I'm a part of. These people don't really get a half decent interview. Not that we're trying to like, you know, glaze ourselves, but usually it's like an article or something, and it's not, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the reason that I wanted to write that like Substack article about it, is just like, I wanted to put my thoughts and findings into words and like also see if like other people fucked with that. And like,
your Substack was really good. Also appreciated you putting us in there. That was really nice.
Of course. No, totally, dude. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, the scene's awesome. It's cool to kind of float around in it.
Yeah, and it's varied a lot, and like definitely. You know, like Discord is where I feel like I've met so many ridiculously like talented artists. Would love to meet some of those people in person someday, including you guys. Like I personally, you know, sort of like grew up on like Newgrounds and like, you know, like Flash animation stuff on the internet, like back in the day. That's like how I kind of got into animation, was like seeing people were kind of doing stuff completely on their own, and like, you know, it had this really kind of independent like vibe to it. And I felt like you could really like feel kind of like the soul of the people in the work who were making the work.
100%, yeah.
As opposed to like, you know, if a show is made by like a big fucking studio, like it just feels like it's Family Guy style or fucking, you know, Pixar style or like whatever. And that stuff could just not be more like, you know, sort of played out at this point. But like seeing like even a really amateur thing that somebody's making on their own just has so much like soul and everything to it, and it's really exciting. And so then like I grew up on that stuff. And then as I got in, like I ended up going to art school, and then being like, I want to get more into animation here, and maybe I want to do film stuff. And
I actually wrote some stuff down about your early animations. I wasn't sure if it was like Flash or not, but they reminded me of like early like Ray William Johnson like style. Do you know who =3 is, or Ray William Johnson?
Oh, I vaguely remember
doing your mom. Doing your mom.
Yeah.
Like that
I remember
style
my brother
of
was watching. But what are you referring to? I don't know what old animations you found of mine.
On your YouTube channel, you have a hip hop concert, and I believe the other one's called the Cookout. I could be wrong, but they're the early Flash animations.
That's crazy that you dug those up. Yeah, those were Flash animations. Those were far from my earliest Flash animations. That was like, I made that stuff when I was like, I don't know, like 19 or 20. But I started when I was like 12 or 13, like doing stuff on Newgrounds. And I don't want anyone to find those. I don't really want anyone to find the ones that are on YouTube either, but I'm glad you did.
Dude, all right, we'll censor that.
But dude. No, it's good. I don't ever want to like delete anything off the internet. Like, I'm
it's a beautiful relic.
There's probably some Exactly. There's some. I don't like when people do that, and you know, you gotta be shameless.
You gotta stand on business, as they say.
You gotta. I'm trying to stand on my business, absolutely. But yeah, I think, for me, that was a big inspiration. And then when I kind of went to school, I was kind of like, well, like, I mean, making animations for Newgrounds and, I guess now YouTube and whatever, like, it's not really a job. Like, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I felt kind of like lost for a while. Like, I just knew I liked doing animation, but like, for a while, like the catharsis was like posting it somewhere like that where people would see it and getting to interact and talk to people online. And that was really exciting. And then a big sort of turning point for me was when I went for the first time to like a big animation festival, specifically went to the Ottawa Animation Festival.
Really? Okay.
Shout out to Canada.
Shout out Canada.
Which is my favorite festival every year. That one. And this other one in Berlin called Pictoplasma that I really like. I'm about to go to.
Oh shit! Okay.
But when I went there for the first time, I was like, oh shit, like this is where I'm seeing like a lot of really sick independent work.
Yeah.
Like, and it's all like it's like sort of, the real kind of like catharsis of creating something like that is like getting to screen it at a festival like this with a bunch of other really talented people that are all like, you can see the kind of soul in the work.
Yeah.
You get to hang out with them and meet them. And there's like all these crazy animators from like Hungary and Estonia and Japan and, tons from Canada and the US, of course. And like, everyone just kind of like hangs out and like, you see some really cool, inspiring work. And like, that's the stuff that's really like kind of motivated me in this sort of like second wave of stuff. But then now I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing all this really crazy shit that's being made by like people on Discord who I feel like, like don't necessarily have like I don't know what everyone's kind of background is. And a lot of people seem really young also, like, but I've met a lot of really great people like through those communities, including like, Chippy, who like I've worked with a bunch since then. And, he's like a homie that is like down the street from where I'm at right now in New York. I don't know, like you guys and just like tons of other people that have been sort of like tangential to that scene, like Malbat and
shout out Malbat.
Other people that I'm sure you guys are having on this show.
Yeah, we actually had Malbat on the show.
Yeah.
Dude, shout out Malbat.
But yeah, anyway, it's like, it's awesome. And yeah, it would be, I would love to see more crossover between like all the different kind of communities, because people come at this from so many different angles, and especially in like computer graphics, that kind of realm, people are definitely, coming at this stuff from like more of like some people are coming at it from more like a computer science kind of background and the real nerdy kind of like researchy sort of background. And I'm always wanting to like convince people like that to like get into like, making like experimental films and like submitting them to festivals. And on the flip side, I'm like wanting to like convince people that I'm meeting at like these festivals, like these really talented animators that are maybe, doing like really analog kind of like, workflows, like scratching onto film or like whatever, like to experiment with more of the creative, technical like softwares like Blender or whatever.
Just bridging the gap from these types of people. I think that's the best part about this kind of scene or community, is that there's, like you said, there's like people from a computer science background, and then there's people from a more traditional, like artsy kind of background. And then when you get them together, they eventually make really cool shit. It's nice to have like a bunch of different types of people like kind of work together.
I mean, that's how the most interesting shit gets made. And I really get a lot of joy personally out of like connecting people for projects and like figuring out like, oh yeah, it would be sick to work with this person who can like write us a script that can do this thing or whatever. And then like these guys can figure out like how to use that and break that in like a crazy way. Or like working with the developers, making the tools is a great way to make really unique work. And I just want to see stuff that like I haven't seen before. Like I just want to see stuff that no one's really done before. And I feel like a surprising amount of people in animation or whatever are just like very happy, just like being like, yeah, I'm gonna like work for Cartoon Network, or I'm gonna, like try to get a job at Pixar, and like are just like trying to make stuff that feels very derivative of that. And I think that's not necessarily because they have like bad taste or whatever, but it's like they just haven't even necessarily been like exposed to like all this
Yeah,
other
it's just
cool
like
kind of
the
stuff that can be
standard
done.
path kind of thing. Like if you're not into these like
Yeah,
weird indie experimental scenes, animation is very much just like I don't know, like traditional or Pixar or you know what I
totally.
mean? Just, yeah, like you said, just having the
And I
exposure.
think what's really exciting about this scene in particular is that it's like it isn't birthed out of anything traditional, really. Like it's very kind of like, I mean, it sounds cringy to talk about it this way, but it's like it's very kind of punk rock and very kind of like, you know, like just birthed out of like people just kind of fucking around and like not having this sort of like I don't know, finding some tutorials online. I feel like a lot of people probably get into it from like wanting to like, I don't know, figure out like how to pirate a copy of After Effects so that they can make like Call of Duty montage edits, and then they just go down this rabbit hole of like learning Blender and like all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm curious how like you got into it, and you know that's why I'm excited about this show. Is like I want to
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
hear more from that world because it is very mysterious and but like fascinating at the same time.
100% agree. I personally kind of got into the stuff via um I was making YouTube videos with my homie over here, and I was like a basic editor. And then I remember being like, I want to do like some 3D stuff. Do you remember, you played the PS1, right?
Of course,
Okay. Do you
yeah,
know like the save icons, the little 3D things for like
yeah,
your game
yeah,
progress? I remember wanting to make those.
yeah,
I was like, that's so sick. I
yeah,
want
yeah,
to make
yeah.
one of those for like a video or something. And that's what started me like exploring Blender and then finding Lord Stingray's stuff or Namak.
Oh yeah,
He's one of the goats in the
totally.
scene. And then I eventually
I
found
know. I should have thrown him in the article too, but yeah, I
yeah,
have
dude,
known of that
he
guy forever.
Namek and Jack are basically like the two sides of the coin for like the resurgence
Right.
of like that, or I'd say so. I could be wrong. That's my personal experience with it.
I think that's fair. I think that's a good, you know, like as good of a guess as anyone. But but yeah, I feel like yeah, his stuff's different, but also definitely like he was one of the really early people
For
like
sure.
messing with the low poly, like, you know, sort of like
N64,
early
cutesy.
video
Yeah.
game inspired aesthetic. I feel like he's more N64 and Jack is more PS1 like in a way,
Yeah.
but like at the same time like I feel like there's so much more to this kind of world and these aesthetics than just like low poly graphics or
100%.
whatever, you
Yeah.
know, like it's like that's just like if that's all you're getting from it, it's like you're not like remote, like you that's the tip of the iceberg, you
Exactly.
know.
Dude, we gotta make an iceberg video on on the low poly scene. Fuck. Astute observation, Christopher and or Carlos. Hi guys, it's the Patreon shill slot. For only $2.99, you get access to the show a full week in advance. You're gonna want to pay for that because we're gonna have really cool people on. We already do, but there's gonna be more. Also, unlisted videos and series are on the Patreon, along with a cool exclusive community Discord. Get in there, make some friends. Just go over to patreon.com/Knopes Productions, put in your little funny numbers, and send the money our way. Back to the show. Wah. Okay. I wanted to touch on LOAF Zone. LOAF Zone, which is your college thesis, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so was
Yeah.
that for, because you went for film, and what was your other major, or what else were you going for?
Well, so my main major was 3D animation.
Okay.
But I did a minor in film.
Okay.
So that was like my, you know, yeah, my animation thesis basically. Yeah.
Yeah, LOAF Zone, it's so
Or my
beautiful.
senior
I
project.
really like it a lot, especially it blows my mind because I see it and the render style is very like alien to what I would say is
Totally.
traditional like rendering styles. Also, I wanted to touch a little bit on, actually I'll let you maybe either describe or tell me, I don't know, maybe some of your thoughts on LOAF Zone and what that was like creating in the first place before like nerding out on like smaller details about it.
Oh no, totally. I mean, the Loaf Zone was a film that it was my first film that I made that I was like really proud of, that I felt like was actually a good film. I made a lot of shitty films
Yeah.
before the LOAF Zone. In order to like, you have to get the bad ones out of the way before you can make a good one.
Yeah.
So I made an effort to really try to make, like these ambitious projects. And then finally I got to spend like, they give us like 3 semesters to do our final project. So I spent the first semester like doing animatic, and I was actually working on like a different thing. And then I kind of very last minute like pivoted to this new idea for the LOAF Zone. And then so I had my animatic and everything done at the end of that first semester. And then basically I spent a year just like, or 2 semesters like producing the whole thing. And I really wanted to do like something with vignettes. I'm like very like ADHD, and I like knew I would get bored of working on the same characters,
one continuous,
the same environments, whatever, the whole time. And I really also like was like, well, I want to make something really different. I don't want to make something that feels like a derivative like Pixar short film. Like a lot of people in school are like trying to just like make like a Pixar short film basically. And I just think that that's really
boring.
Do something unique and different, but it's just like, it is very hard for people to like realize like that is even a possibility, to like give themselves permission to do that stuff, Anyway, I really wanted to do something vignetted, like, a bunch of different little scenes, like with different characters or whatever. And that was inspired by a number of films. One of them was The External World by David O'Reilly that I mentioned, which is like a bunch of different vignettes. It's an amazing film. I cannot recommend enough checking it out. And then also this film called Ladies' Night by Simeon Kondev, who is a classmate that I had from RISD, who graduated in 2014. But I really liked this film that he made, where it's just like also like, a 3-minute film with like a bunch of different vignettes. And I watched it like a lot of times and was like, this is a great format. And, I also like didn't have to lean as heavily on being like an amazing like screenwriter or whatever if I was just like doing a bunch of different little dumb, fast ideas. So basically to write it, I like, I, especially in New York, is like a great place to like eavesdrop on people's conversations,
good source
and like
for
see
inspiration.
weird things happen. Yeah, good source for inspiration. So I'm writing notes like in my notes app all the time. And then I would just like, when I had to write the script for this, I just like think I just like took some Adderall and then like went through my notes app and then just like was like writing out all these different scenes and then like kind of trying to figure out like how they could like transition into each other and stuff. But I can't recommend that, enough. Just like having notes to go back to later, like that you just take just like anytime you have an idea.
Exactly. Just having a pool or a collection of just like random and disparate ideas and being able to look back on them. And even if you don't remember one to one, it's like a something that like seeds new inspiration.
Yeah, it's a spark. It's a you got to give yourself some kind of like limitations or like whatever. Like when you're you can't have just like a blank page. Like having something there, even if it's like you saw like a dead pigeon on the street or whatever. It's like there you go. Like you can do something with that as a jumping off point. So yeah. And then I think on the technical side with the LOAF Zone, a really key part of it is like, yeah, it is rendered like in this very kind of like high fidelity way, especially for the time, especially for like an indie film at the time. And the reason for that is that, the alternative would have been for David O'Reilly's External World. What he did was everything is rendered out of the viewport in Maya. Like, so he didn't bother with rendering, and that made it so that he was able to make this film. And like, it's like, yeah, that's a style. You don't have to like do like a fully path traced fancy render or
like
whatever.
lighting and everything.
Totally. But at the same time, I had this cousin who's really smart, who's like was an indie game developer for a long time, and who also lived in New York at the time, named Charlie Deck. And he's really awesome. And he at one point showed me that he was using this GPU render engine called Octane.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't realize that was a thing that you could like, there were these GPU renderers that would like, render things like 10 to 20 times faster than like a CPU renderer. And so I started looking into that and I found Octane and Redshift, and I ended up buying Redshift, which then enabled me to just like absolutely like
really push
kicked all
stuff.
my other
Yeah.
classmates' ass in all their assignments because like I was able to just like render shit on my own computer easily, and they were all stuck trying to like render like on like the 4-core like iMacs at school with like Arnold, which is like insane. So that was a big like boost for me, and yeah, allowed me to like, you know, I was sort of able to do then. It felt like it was like the next step from like what David O'Reilly did, where like back when David O'Reilly made the External World, there were no GPU renderers, but now that there were, I was like, I think I could do like a higher fidelity
you
look
could like
here.
push.
And I've always been totally, and I've always been like, I think for me, like style wise, like I've always been really inspired by a couple of different studios, particularly this one in Sweden called Mindbender.
Yeah.
Where Olaf Berman is like an incredible director there, and they did all these crazy Cartoon Network promos back in the day that like are all like rendered in this like really insanely detailed manner.
Yeah.
I love the movie Rango. I also love this studio called Meat Department.
Yeah, and Tumblehead is another one.
And Tumblehead's the other big one for me. And so what I love about all those guys is that they're all doing stuff with really stylized like designs and characters and stuff, but they're all like using, especially Mindbender and Meat Department, they're using like really photoreal like texturing, lighting, rendering, and like making stuff that looks really tactile and real. And like computers are so good at doing that now. So juxtaposing that with, you know, like this stylized design, like I think gets it like an interesting look that I really like.
Yeah.
So, you know, the stuff that I'm doing is more in that realm, is like very like different to like a lot of like the low poly kind of stuff that people are doing. But yeah, that's sort of like the style that I wanted to like try to like lean into for the LOAF Zone, and sort of like how that came to be, more or less.
Yeah.
And then also like adding in the fact of like I can do sort of like physics simulations and stuff, and like computers are also kind of good at that, and was using this thing in Maya called N-cloth a lot to do like sort of the jiggly physics and stuff in there. Before I was doing all that stuff with Houdini.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit about what drew you into like physics sims specifically, because that's another thing that I see, especially throughout your older work as well. Feels like a lot of it was just kind of super experimental, also seemingly, because I'm not too deep into this or that kind of zone. I would say like very ahead of its time almost. Like seeing these extremely impressive like simulations and also character designs with proportions. Your work is just like super sick early on, and I wanted to just question where like simulations essentially came into the mix for your style.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's a couple things. One is that like before I got into 3D, I was sort of already feeling like, okay, I want to be like an animator, and I like really identify with like animation and like being able to like make films on my own. Like that's the cool thing about animation to me. But I was like, I'm not going to be like Glenn Keane or Richard Williams. I'm not going to just like grind out, you know, like tens of thousands of hours doing like figure drawing to get like perfect at like being a draftsperson. Mm-hmm. Like I can draw, but like not like that well. And I don't really enjoy like just grinding out like that sort of stuff to get better. It's a really like sort of like, you know, brute force sort of practice that just feels like, you know, like, I don't know, like going to the gym or eating vegetables or whatever. And it's like, it's great, but like, I just don't want to do it all the time.
That's
like,
fair.
I'm not like going to be like a gym bro of like, you know, I'm not going to be a bodybuilder or
I like
whatever,
that
but
analogy,
like, I want to like have some skills there, you know, like I want to be okay at drawing, like, but I'm really a technical person. And I also like, I think what excites me the most is like combining all these different styles and ideas. And someone that was really inspiring to me early on in the discovery of sort of like what I wanted to do there was like the artist Syriac, who does these really crazy, you've definitely seen his stuff. It's like, he has this sheep animation where it's like a sheep walking, and it's done with After Effects and Photoshop. And then like the sheep like opens up a hole and like another sheep comes out, and like it becomes this crazy sheep monster. And it's like this ever kind of growing, expanding thing. He does these really crazy animations, but they're like, and they're super mind bending, but they don't use any drawings. They're all just like kind of Photoshop collage stuff or whatever. And I thought that was really interesting. And I'm like, yeah, I want to like, again, being very ADHD, I think that's part of why I'm like, I'm not a super detail oriented person, which is why I didn't care so much about getting like so good at one particular thing.
Yeah.
And similarly, like I like doing like character animation. I like getting like, 70 to 80% good at doing like character animation and like feeling that out and like whatever. But I don't want to spend like the last like 5 to 10% like of polish that you need to like really do like high end character animation. It just takes so long and it's like not as exciting to me. So in a way, adding simulations into the mix was like another tool that I could add in that was sort of supplement doing that last bit of animation. It would sort of like help add some weird like follow through and like extra like stuff or whatever. So it's like I could like keyframe a base thing and then I could like do some sims to like add all the extra juicy detail and stuff. And I just really like the way that it was looking. So it's like, it's just fun like being able to be like, cool, I'm going to like model something and I'm not going to make the perfect model. I'll get like 80% of the way there. And then I'll level it up in texturing. And I'm not going to do the perfect texturing thing. I'll get like 80%. So it's just like about kind of like being a generalist and doing a bit of everything. But the effect stuff to me, again, is like a real nice way to like add another layer into your thing that augments stuff. And I think a lot of people just don't get into it as much and don't like, it's a bit of a rabbit hole to understand, but it is really fun to me. And I don't want to rabbit hole on effects too much either. Like I don't want to be like the most technical, math brain, like effects artist ever. I think it's really interesting, but it's like just going down too far any rabbit hole sort of distracts from the goal of like, well, I just want to make films at the end of the day, So that's sort of the thought process there is it's like yet another incredible tool set that like, if you can just learn a little bit of it, you can really take advantage of it. And it can like kind of be this like extra, boost towards my animation, or it can like level up my animation with a little bit of extra, like follow through and secondary motion and sort of all that kind of classic animation principles bullshit.
So generally specializing is super taxing and just like not down your alley. You're much more interested in like experimenting and trying out new shit. Also, I'd say that due to not that you're not a specialist, you get what I'm saying. Due to not like hyper,
no, 100%.
Due to like not hyper fixating on a specific genre, it allows your work to have a very interesting, distinct feel because you're not necessarily like super focused on purely the animation aspect of it. You've had the time to like round out your skill tree in a sense. It's not just like I'm super good at like animating, but like my environment style or lighting is like bad or anything. You've kind of just like rounded out super well, which makes your work I'd say stand out a lot.
Thanks. Yeah. And I think also in a way, like, specializing is a little bit of a confusing thing.
It's almost a loaded term.
Like specializing, it's a super loaded term because it feels like it would be like, you're specializing in being a modeler or you're specializing in being an animator or whatever. But what I'm specializing in is making weird Chris Rutledge animations.
Exactly.
And I'm really specialized in that, and really nobody can do that quite like me. So I end up being like an irreplaceable kind of guy for the people that want that very niche specific kind of thing, And I think the more that you, just like pursue the stuff that you're excited about, the more that your style kind of naturally develops and you naturally like specialize in without even trying to.
Yes.
So I really try to encourage a lot of people to not think about specializing and just let it sort of happen naturally. And like whatever the things are that excite you, like you end up kind of gravitating toward those things. And it sort of informs like, what your style and specialty ends up becoming.
Super
and then
true.
hopefully, people hire you for that specialty. Like if I was gonna, work with you, I would be hiring you because I like your specific style, not because I need just some random character animator or whatever. Sure. Like
speaking of,
and that's the thing that excites me about everybody in these scenes.
Speaking of, if you ever need help with anything, I need
Oh,
money.
dude, I will definitely hit you up. You can definitely, expect me to hit you up as soon as there's a good project for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude.
Just actually, I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on like internet culture, atomization, and the loss of second spaces, and most people working from home and
Mhm.
remotely, and
Or
the
third spaces.
supplement, with Discord groups and stuff like that. Have you ever, or do you feel like you've
Yeah.
struggled with this kind of maybe not specifically after COVID, but I guess around this kind of time where, we've, as independent people, we've lost the ability to go to an office unless you're working for like a really sick studio or something. Working independent, you're from
Yeah.
home. It's harder to, you can't just go to work, clock in, be like, "What's up, Bill?" Fist bump, and then get to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is the thing that I found with like sharing a studio with a bunch of homies is like that's such a game changer. And I thought I was really happy with being remote, like during COVID. And when I switched over to being in a studio, now I've been like, oh fuck that, I'm never being remote again.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice to have like the flexibility, and like I've been working a bunch with the studio in New York, Hornet, where
Okay.
I've been like doing some jobs for them and working out of their space a little bit here and there. And the vibe there is pretty sweet. There's a lot of really talented people. Like, you know, I've been also showing them like this kind of work and stuff from like, you know, the more kind of like indie, like underground kind of communities and stuff. And yeah, I think that there's a lot, you know, everyone can kind of learn from one another. But I think definitely like, you know, if you have enough like talented creative friends that can like share a space together, like definitely like try to do that, like go get a studio and like, you know, like get everyone to like split the rent or whatever. Like at my studio in LA, it was the studio for this company, Encyclopedia Pictura. It's done a bunch of really cool like music videos back in the day for like Bjork and Grizzly Bear and like, you know, stuff from that era. And then they recently made this feature called The Legend of Ochi that was really sick with A24. But they stopped needing all the space that they have there and started renting out desks to friends and friends of friends.
Oh, okay.
And it's just become this like insanely sick co-working space with like a bunch of game developers, a bunch of animators, you know, documentary filmmakers, music people, and this little like music studio in the back. It's like such a dreamlike kind of scenario. It's gonna unfortunately probably shut down soon because we got a new landlord who's tripling the rent there.
Fucking Christ.
That's just, you know, like kind of shit that happens.
That's insane.
That
you could do that? You
with.
can just triple the rent?
Dude. Yeah, in commercial spaces, it's a lot less
regulated or
sort of like protected than like if you're
like that's
less
insane.
Regulated. But
I didn't know that.
But I'm excited about in New York. I have a lot of friends with studio spaces in like East Williamsburg and like this warehousey area, and it's like a really sick vibe. And I just want to connect more of that, and just like being around people like helps so much. Being on Discord with people too is great.
This is
like,
better than nothing. Come on now.
It's better than nothing for sure. But if you can get into like a physical space with friends and stuff, like, you know, you'll benefit a lot from that. And I highly encourage people to try to do that, you know, kind of wherever you are.
Agreed.
And if you live in somewhere that's like really in the middle of nowhere, like, you know, I would recommend like at some point, like definitely try moving to like a bigger city where you can be involved in an in-person community more like that.
Yeah, for sure. Can we talk about Grin Machine a little bit? I'm trying to think of the first time I messaged you on Discord. I asked you for a Riding Dirty remix on SoundCloud. I was like, what's that song? But I think the first time I saw your stuff might have actually been through Grin Machine or something on your YouTube channel. Maybe around the time you did your Fruitiger Arrow kind of stuff, and that was like blowing up and people were like ripping the fuck out of it. But
Yeah, that was hilarious.
yeah, I wanted to ask about Grin Machine and how that came about, because it's insane what you guys are doing.
Yeah. I mean, Grin Machine came about because I was a big fan of Cole Cush, the Grin Machine is basically like Dan Strite, who started it, Cole Cush, and me.
Yeah.
And Cole is somebody that I was a huge fan of and made this incredible pilot for Adult Swim called Day Worlds that came out right when I graduated and like finished the LOAF Zone. I reached out to him and I was like, dude, if this show gets picked up and you need more animators or whatever, like, let me know. I would love to like work on this. Like, this is my favorite thing I've seen forever.
For sure.
And he like responded and was like nice and like was like, oh, I checked out the LOAF Zone. It's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then we kind of kept chatting and he hit me up once in a while asking for advice on like compositing like CG into live action footage, because he didn't have like an animation background. Like he like studied like medicine.
Interesting.
And he hit me up for some projects. The first thing we worked on, well, actually, I told him he should submit stuff to the Ottawa Animation Festival, and he submitted this like Mac DeMarco music video he made for Here Comes the Cowboy. He like grew up with Mac in Edmonton, like back in the day.
Oh, really? Nice.
So they were buds. And he I told him like, dude, submit this shit to Ottawa. He did. We met up at Ottawa, had a really awesome time there. And then he was telling me that he wanted help on this music video for Tonight. So we did this music video for the track Gimme Some by Tonight. Mm-hmm. And that was like a fun collab. And then, we kept working on a few more projects together. And then eventually he wrote me into some projects that he was doing with Dan Strite.
Yes.
And then we worked on like this like music video for Brockhampton all together, and some stuff for like Lil Nas X, and a bunch of other projects. Me and Dan did like a ad for Beats by Dre with Thundercat in it together. We did a ad for me and Cole did a music video for Kuko. And actually, if you look up the music video that we did for Kuko, that's definitely where that's like I did some like low poly shit for that and Houdini like shittily, but it was like definitely very inspired by like, kind of all the stuff going on in the Discords. That was a fun one. And then they a little while before that, I think, like asked me to like join on and be like their third like partner there. And we just did a bunch of cool projects. We did like this pilot for Adult Swim called Eggland. It was great. And then now recently we finished this music video for A$AP Rocky that was really fun. But it's basically just like whenever projects kind of pop up that make sense for like either Cole and Dan or me and Dan or me and Cole,
for the gang to get together.
They can be kind of like they can be Grin Machine projects, and lots of music videos, things like that. And I love that like the Grin Machine stuff is like, it's very experimental. It's very mixed media. Like, Dan's the live action guy. Cole's like a weirdo kind of 3D creative guy. And then like, I'm the kind of technical guy there. And I like can like assemble teams like I did for like the A$AP Rocky project, or, other stuff of like animation team, like doing it on Eggland was like the first time that I sort of like assembled and led like a animation team back in 2022. That's sort of the lore there.
I wanted to speak a little bit on the like experimental nature of Grin Machine, and kind of I wrote this last night, so hold up, give me a second. So the idea is that maybe this is this is just my observation. I think that experimental art and experimental music videos because there's always been like, for music videos specifically, there's always been some level of like avant-gardeness or experimentation going on for as long as music videos have been a thing. But what I think is really interesting about Grin Machine is that having worked with like huge names and like big artists, it like pushes what's possible with experimental art, with experimental techniques, with everything to a larger, more broad audience. And I think that it's
Totally.
so important that more people are introduced to these like newer techniques and newer aesthetics. And I just think it's awesome to see, I guess.
I'm totally yeah, like a huge proponent of that. And like I think that I don't know if you know this artist Saint Vulture. He's like a really sick blender guy who does this crazy like sort of frame by frame sculpted like stop motion.
I have seen that. Yeah,
Blender.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his work is crazy. He's amazing. He's a Croatian legend who I got to meet in Europe like a couple of years ago when I was in Denmark. He was doing a residency there, but he put it in a really eloquent way where he was like, "Oh yeah, you're like trying to like improve the media diet of like the world."
Well, shout out, put. That's awesome. I love that a lot.
He's got a great way with words. I love following his Twitter and stuff. Everything he posts on there is brilliant. But yeah, he I like that. I like to say like I really like trying to take stuff that's in this sort of like indie animation realm, the most interesting techniques and styles, and like be like, yeah, can we use this for like a music video or a commercial or whatever, like TV show, like movie, whatever. Like I want to take that stuff and those techniques and techniques I haven't seen before and like bring them into places that are like more mainstream. And a lot of times those kind of crazy techniques, they get relegated more into these niche spaces where like you only see stuff like that at these animation festivals or in like weird little corners of the internet or like in like tech demos and things like that, like the Gaussian splatting stuff we were doing with the ASAP Rocky video, for example.
That stuff is sick.
So it's really cool to see that stuff like, actually be able to like break through and hit. And then, the ASAP Rocky video comes out and then we get all this attention from all these like tech nerds that are like, whoa, holy shit, like Gaussian splatting in an ASAP Rocky video.
Yeah.
Like Corridor Digital made like a breakdown on it and stuff.
So sick.
And that was hilarious. But yeah, so I'm all about that. And yeah, it's sick that we've been able to do a lot of stuff like that with the Grin Machine projects.
Yeah.
And
I'd say
like Cole and Dan are both just really creative and like awesome to work with.
Yeah, I remember seeing Dan's stuff separately from yours, and then seeing you guys like come together. I think the first thing I saw might have been Buzzcut for Brockhampton. I was like, dude, this is fucking nuts. This is like so far ahead. I just loved it a lot. But yeah, just speaking on improving the media diet, I love that a lot. I think there was for a while maybe a bit of, I think generally there might be like some CG like nihilism or apathy generally, because I think when people think of CGI, they think of like bad movies or like low effort kids content and stuff like that. So CGI gets like a horrible rap from a lot of people, but in the indie scenes and then with like Grin Machine, for example, there is so much like unbelievably impressive stuff going on at all times. So having a more mainstream like outlet for these things, I think is super like helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I think that a lot of the time that hate for CGI and stuff, it comes from people only see the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And then also it's a thing that people don't understand. Like they don't understand how CGI works and how it was made. But when you understand that stuff, you appreciate it so much and you love watching like the behind the scenes. And I think also a lot of people kind of take for granted, like assuming like, oh, people aren't going to understand this. But then, people like I see on TikTok and things like that blowing up all the time, like videos of like somebody speed modeling a head. And it's like, whoa, like people are able to like kind of comprehend like kind of how it works. Or they're able to see like VR sculpting stuff. They're like, oh, that's crazy how that works. That's really interesting. It makes them like appreciate it, Yeah. And so I think like that's why you see this backlash to CGI a lot. And I think that it would be cool to see more
appreciation,
people being open about the process and sharing that and showing like how things work, that, they don't have to be like super technical tutorials, but just like break it down in a way where it's like, because people can you can explain this stuff to people and they can understand.
I think you do a really good job at this when it comes to your Houdini tutorials and also some of the VR sculpting videos themselves. Just watching you guys work on stuff, it makes it more. It like demystifies it. I think that's what you do an excellent job of when it comes to your Houdini tutorials, because Houdini itself is like seems really complicated, but watching you just like mess around and like teach things in a simplified manner, it just makes it more palatable than like confusing.
Yeah. I think if you can see the steps involved, like, you know, you don't have to see like how the steps are working or whatever, but you can just see it going from this thing turns into this thing, this turns into this thing, blah, 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 whatever. That's like enough of like an interesting like process that like people can kind of get it and break it down instead of like just seeing the end product and being like, I don't get this.
Yeah, like what, how, yeah. For sure.
But also at the same time, like the stuff that excites me the most, like in work, is also like, I don't want to see something that's like super glossy and perfect. Like I want to see something that feels like, oh, I get how they made that. Like I could maybe make that, like something that feels achievable, like in a way that kind of excites me a lot more than seeing like, again, like somebody like
something impossible,
like Richard Williams making The Thief and the Cobbler, like some crazy anime sequence with like like something that I would never be able to like, you know, pull off or whatever. Like it's just like, yeah, cool to see like people just being clever and like it's like it's to make the best work. It's a combination of like cleverness and clever techniques and those like procedural ideas and systems and like just hard work and just like grinding out like character animation, modeling, whatever, like making cool shit. And yeah, I don't know. It's all, you know, stuff worth experimenting with at the end of the day.
100%. All right. We'll let you go. Our hand cam ran out of footage. You got things to do. You got places to be, things to do, hands to shake. So we're going to wrap up. Is there anything you wanted to either share or promote? That's by any chance, any project you're working on, anything you want people to keep their this is probably coming out in like 2-3 weeks, maybe.
Not yet, but hit me up if you're going to the Annecy Animation Festival.
Yes, in September, right?
I'll be there, and come and submit to the Ottawa Animation Festival. This is coming out in 2-3 weeks. I think the deadline is the end of the month.
I mean, we'll see.
So submit your shorts or whatever.
Fuck yeah, dude.
But yeah, hit me up on fucking Instagram or Discord or whatever. And dude, I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm stoked that you're like turning me on to all this other sick work. I want to keep seeing like I don't know, all the artists that you're finding and like check out what they're all working on.
Honestly, same. This is like it's a nice cultural exchange. I'm definitely gonna check out some of the people you've mentioned as well. So this is sick. But yeah, again, seriously, thank you so much.
Totally. My pleasure, man.
All right. We're going to do an outro. We're going to say goodbye. The TV's going to turn off. You're just going to disappear. So,
okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. It was nice chatting for a little bit, man. Thanks, Chris. Wow. What an amazing, handsome, talented, cool person Chris is. So check out his stuff. Check out his YouTube channel, please. It's really good, and there's a lot of stuff on there. You guys have a good night. See you on the next one. All right, that's a good outro.